Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have Jim Penman with us. He's the CEO of Australia's largest franchise. It's going to certainly be an interesting convo about franchises, about Jim's group, of course, about entrepreneurship and small business owners. This podcast is presented to you by podfire.com. That's my podcasting company. If you want to start and scale your own podcast, you can go to podfire.com. Jim, welcome to the podcast. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about Jim's group.
Well, what can I say? I never intended to be a business owner. I was an academic. I wanted to develop an understanding of the rise and fall of civilizations and so forth. Ended up in 1982 with no potential for an academic career. And so I decided to launch my own business. So I turned my part-time lawn mowing business into a into a full-time version, and then 1989, a few years later, franchised it. So we've now got just over 5,000 franchisees, and it's going well, surprisingly well, I must say.
So I'm guessing that studying the rise and fall of civilization can also, you can also draw parallels from that and building a company, a David into a Goliath. So what civilizations did you study, and how did you apply these frameworks into building your own little civilization?
I studied a big variety of looking at the Roman Empire, rise and fall of Greece, China, Japan, pre-Columbian America, looked at a whole lot of different things, trying to get patterns all across the world. I have to say, probably in terms of relevance to the business, nothing in particular. My ideas about business are pretty simple. You focus fanatically on customer service. You, as a franchisor, you focus really heavily on franchisees, your primary customers, and every day you try and do better.
Tell us a bit more about Jim's group for us non-Australian. What do you folks do, and how did you expand it in that many verticals?
Well, what happened is I started, because I was a lawn mowing contractor, so I started basically just, mowing lawns and gardening and so forth. That was the original idea, and never really thought of going beyond that. If you've seen our logo, it's the man with the beard and the hat, which is me. That's what I used to look like when I was pushing a lawnmower. And what happened was that we thought of the idea of expanding in different areas like cleaning and so forth, but we didn't think the logo would work because it's such a gardening image. So when we thought of cleaning, we actually had a different brand. It's called Sunlight, SUNLITE, and with a little sprays and stuff. We thought that's more of a cleaning kind of thing, and women wouldn't want to go out wearing a masculine sort of beard and a hat image. And so we tried that, and it failed. We just couldn't get enough work, so I gave them their money back. And then somebody came to me and said, "What about Jim's cleaning?" And I said, "Well, no, this is a gardening image. It's clearly not a cleaning image." And they said, "We think it'll work." And I said, "No, it won't." So they said, "Well, we're prepared to go into partnership with you and give it a go." So I said, "All right, give it a try." And it worked. And most divisions come the same way, actually. Somebody comes to us with an idea and they said, "I'd like to try it for, handyman or pest control or antennas or building inspections or beauty." People just come to us with the idea and we put our franchising technology into place.
And it seems to me that you had a relentless focus. I mean, 35 years working at the same company, not exiting, not selling, just focusing on building your own ecosystem. Persistence and focus is a tip right there, but what's another trick that you have for us to build such a behemoth?
Look, I believe in what I do to a large extent. My franchisees are a little bit more than business associates. They're kind of like my family. So I feel that very deeply. I mean, the hardest thing I find to face as a franchisee failing, I find that worse. I get a $500,000 tax bill, and it doesn't worry me nearly as much as knowing a franchisee's failed. That somehow systems failed them, we've failed them, we chose the wrong person, we did something wrong. I have contact with every one of my franchisees. Every single one of them has my direct phone number and email address, and they're invited and, in fact, encouraged repeatedly to contact me anytime they wish, daytimes, evenings, weekends, holidays. Not that I take holidays, but just anytime. I had a franchisee call me on Christmas Day, and I answered the phone. It's just it's like a passion. It's like a mission, I suppose. And I'm very determined not to let it go to anybody else. And you see so many cases of successful franchise systems being sold to some greedy multinational who just go in and rip people off. And they just hurt so many people. And I've seen terrible things happen in that. I just never wanted to happen to us. So I'm hoping that after I'm gone, I'm setting up a family trust structure, and I hope my family will continue in the same light.
And what psychometrics do you look for into franchise owners that you recruit?
What kind of people do we look for? I have to say, we're talking about a service industry, and most people who have got the fortitude to borrow money would probably, or come up with that kind of sum, it's probably about $30,000 average, would probably be reasonably okay. You more or less got to look for the ones that haven't got what it takes. We can help the reasonably competent, ordinary person to run a successful business. About something close to 90% of our franchises will last the first year, which is many times more than in a typical startup business. What do we look for? Any kind of responsible customer-facing background is a good thing. We find that actual management sales tend to be particularly good. Industry experience is completely irrelevant, except for a very few divisions like electrical that require it, but the great majority don't. They've got to come up with the money themselves. One absolute no-no is if somebody's parents, a young man, for example, whose parents are buying the business for them, that is just won't work, doesn't work. So there's certain guidelines. And then you look for things like, do they ask good questions? Not just how much can I make, but how does it work and so forth. More questions, the better. Do they do their research? Are they checking you out? Are they talking to the competition? Are they ringing franchisees? Because in Australia, you have to give people a list of current and ex-franchisees to anybody who inquires, which is a good system. So those kinds of things you look for. And then they've got to impress you. You've got to be able to communicate okay.
How do you decide what other services to offer to your existing clients?
Well, it's fairly obvious, really. I mean, if you're a mowing contractor, then you're obviously going to do things like gardening, rubbish removal, gutter clearing, anything to do with the garden. So it's kind of like part of our training would be showing people the different things they can do. A lot of our franchisees in mowing, for example, get horticulture degrees. So they learn how to do things like poisoning and plant care and plant recognition and stuff, and they tend to do very well. The top earners actually are the ones that do upsell. Upselling is good because basically you're already there, and traveling is a big cost. And also your hourly rates tend to be higher. We would recommend our franchisees start at about $70, $80 an hour and up from there. So if you're doing something specialized like a landscaping job or something of that nature, you could charge a fair bit more.
But then you have beauty and massage.
Yes, well, beauty is just new. Just launched. I have to say, fairly rocky start. I've had one or two of the franchises approach me saying not enough leads. So I've gone to the franchisor and said, listen, you got to get your marketing up to scratch. You can't put any more on until everybody you've got is really, really busy. We've had a very strong response. We got a lot of media across the country. We had hundreds of people trying to book in services, but we've got I think 6 people on the road right now, and we've got to really get them busy. I actually write to them after being every franchisee after 1 month. I write to them a letter. It's a generated thing, and I say, how are you going? How's your income going? Do you need pay for work guarantee, which is a system whereby they can do free jobs and we pay them to do them. So
right.
Keep in touch.
And talking about beauty, Jim, you still look good at your age. How do you take care of yourself? Like, what's your daily routine? What's your optimization state on the health side of things?
I exercise usually at least half an hour running a day plus weightlifting, or if not that, I work on my farm. They've got huge fields of vegetables and so forth, and fruit trees and things that I look after. Plus, I also play racquetball whenever I can too. We've got a racquetball court just opened, and that's really fun. So exercise is important. Weight control. My weight's 66, 67 kilos, which is about body mass index of 22. So I control my weight, eat a lot of vegetables, fruit, try not to eat too much, drink too much soft drink and so forth, but just basic good health.
And how does taking care of your body influence your psychology and your energy output as a CEO?
Oh, it's massive. It's massive. I know people and who are half my age who don't have anything like the same energy. I just, I am actually bursting with energy. I really don't feel any different to what I did when I was 30, apart from libido's gone down a bit, but you notice that one. But apart from in energy I'm always coming up with ideas. I actually bombard people. I go in and chat to people in the office and stuff. We often just spend a lot of time shooting and say, what about we do this? What about we do that? Or what about if we approach things this way? Or this isn't working. What about doing that? I'm just full of ideas. It's just, I feel incredible, actually. I really feel amazing. I had no idea being 71 was like this. You thought about being old, but I'm not. I don't feel it at all. I don't act it. I don't think it. I read a lot. I probably read or listen to at least a couple of books a week, plus other things of that nature. So a fairly active life. Have a
How do you
reasonable
make sure
social life.
to execute all of these ideas? Is it like having a great team? Do you execute yourself nowadays?
Actually, I'm not particularly good at executing things, and that's one of the things. I'm fairly good at communication. I'm very creative in terms of ideas and energy and so forth, and I can express the values of the company. But in terms of getting things done, I have very competent staff. I have a great COO, a guy called Rocky. And I have somebody great looking after social media. I've got a CFO. I've got people in HR. I've got different department heads. What I tend to do is spend a lot of time just walking around chatting to people, including all staff. Basically, most staff I try and talk to, at least once a week, more often once a day for most of them.
So you're probably a serial and serious note taker. How do you make sure that these notes and these ideas of yours get executed and you can witness the outcome of that experiment of yours?
Mostly not notes, but emails. I live off emails. I probably get something over 100 emails a day, and I do it through that. So if I want something done, then I'll email. But look, mostly my staff are pretty good actually. They in a sense they tend to get things done, and I'll remind them and I'll follow up with certain things like that. But in general, you've got to have competent people. I'm not a micromanager. I don't work well with people who need to be told exactly how to do their job. I like people who would take responsibility, argue with me at times, say it should be done this way, have different ideas. The best people are like that. They're full of ideas themselves. So you just have to talk to them. I think a lot of success in franchising is having great franchisees with great support, but success in business in general is having great staff. And I spend a lot of time concerned about whether my staff are happy. Are they getting what they want? Are they feeling respected? Are they feeling listened to? Do we appreciate them? Do we pay them appropriately? I just ordered just today, this morning, about an hour before this podcast, I awarded one of my staff a $50,000 pay increase. Didn't ask for it, just given it to him because he's worth it.
Must be a superstar. And to me, it seems that you have your grip on the market and you just fundamentally and almost on a gut level understand where the market is going, at least in Australia and in your niche, right?
Fundamentally, it's all about customer service. We are absolutely relentless about customer service. We have a system whereby we call clients back. They're promised to call back. They've got to get a call within 2 hours. If you can't get through, you've got to text. Now, we really push it and push it. Don't wait 2 hours. Do it 2 minutes. We survey clients 10 days after sending a survey out. We record complaints. We have a rigorous system of follow-up and feedback. We do warning letters and all kinds of things. So there's a constant pressure. I actually had an email this morning from a franchisee quite upset about this. And he basically suggesting that we slacken off because it's too much. And that's a very, very common response. People do feel pressure. I've been accused of making people feel mentally ill because there's these complaints and they really fear them because we react so strongly. A complaint comes in, franchisor says, what went wrong? What happened? How could you stop it happening? What can you do about it? Can you go back and fix the client? Because if they fix the problem, they'll get the complaint wiped off. So it's kind of like It's quite relentless at every level. There's a lot of pressure to perform if you're a franchisee to do good work. And if you're a franchisor, there's a lot of pressure to look after your franchisees or ring them regularly. We actually monitor that too. We survey our franchisees, and franchisees can talk to me. They can, if they're not happy with something, they contact me direct. They email me, they call me and say, I'm not happy with this, and I will look at it. So, for example, if I get franchisees not enough work, or franchisors not being pleasant to them, or not listening to them, all kinds of things, I just listen all the time. You're always, every day, relentless improvement. It's been quite striking, actually, Charles. We started doing surveys about 10 years ago, and before that, work was relatively not that easy to find. Since we've been doing that, and as we jacked up the systems and got the level of customer service higher, the leads have just magically grown. They're growing extraordinarily fast. Last year we had over 200,000 unserviced leads, which is something like about a quarter of all leads received we have to say no to. And not only that, but we've got a certain amount of money comes in from the franchise every month, usually about $150 per month. In the past, we'd often have to supplement that by putting extra money in as franchisors. These days we have a problem. We actually have too much. We can't spend it. Dog wash division, just yesterday I got a support. We've got something like close to $100,000 that we've underspent advertising because they're all flat out. So we're now actually, what can we do with it? So I'm asking for suggestions. Do we shout them all to a national conference fully paid for? Do we give them more grooming training? Do we give them a month's free fees? We can't keep the money because it's in the contract. But that's the problem we never used to have in the past. We've given back millions of dollars to franchisees in unspendable advertising, and most of our franchisees are flat out year round. That's customer service, Charles. That's what it does. And it's well, I've got a bank here called the Commonwealth Bank, which is the biggest in Australia. And I see you go down the road and you see signs advertising how great they are. Well, one of the problems is they don't answer their phones properly. I've tried to ring my bank half an hour on the phone. I said, take some money off these stupid placards and put it into giving better service, and you'll do far more for your company than that.
Well, first, I'm inspired. Second, it's not the first time I hear about this problem of leads not being contacted. And in the end, it's also customer service, because if you don't contact them, they expect a response, So maybe I'm going to launch an agency to serve that. One's definitely not going to be a call center because I already did that. But yeah, food for thought, I guess. And it's a beautiful problem to have. But something that comes to my mind is probably some kind of autoresponder at first, right? Giving them options, maybe some AI to classify these responses, and then probably having some franchisees make some of these calls, but definitely not outsourcing to a call center in India.
Well, no, our call center's in Melbourne. It's right bang in our head office. We don't outsource that. I go in every day, chat to the girls, see how they're going as far as they can get off the phones, and I check our wait time. We have a wait time standard of 13 seconds. If it goes beyond an average of 13 seconds per call on hold, that's a really big problem. And then we have to look at what we can do and how we can fix it. It's usually a lot less than that. So it's very, very quick, answered locally in Australia, local accents, very well trained people paid above the award, given all sorts of, I go in and hand out, congratulatory certificates and give them bonuses when they've done well. I mean, you're really, really relentless on customer service at that level too. Call centers are good, actually. It's got to be run well, and they can't be run too stingily.
Right. And I was about to ask, because in Canada, we have the labor shortage situation. You probably have that in Australia too, right?
Yes. Yeah, there are. Well, but what you can offer is good money. I mean, a person might not be valuable to do a job where they're making $25-30 an hour, but if you offer them a job where a business where they can make $80 or $100 per hour, it's a lot different. And that's what tends to happen. You get somebody from a workforce. We've got a new division called Scratch and Dent, and we've got somebody from a company where they're getting paid that tradies wages, and they're coming in there and they're trebling their income. So they talk to their friends, say, listen, what are you doing making this ridiculous money? Why don't you come to us? So that the friends are coming in. So it becomes a sort of a chain like that. Most people actually come because they know somebody who's been in the business.
Yeah, because my mind is like, how do you take care of 100K leads? Well, probably recruiting more franchisees. How do you accelerate that machine?
Well, it's very difficult. The hardest thing is finding franchisees. Work is not an issue with us. Very, very rarely are we limited by the volume of leads. You just got to look, it's mainly about attrition. You have to look at why people leave. What can you do to keep them? What extra can you do? What different things can you do? We're setting up bonus systems and special offers and all just daily. What do we think? What kind of things? How many meetings do you have? We find, for example, every 6 weeks is optimum for meetings. More than that doesn't help. Less than that, definitely negative. Putting on meals. I think in recent years we actually feed them. My own franchisees direct. We've got $25 meal allowance, so they can have pizza or have a nice meal together. So it's a sort of a communal experience, and they get to know each other, and they form bonds. So always just looking at what else you can do. We put we've got a psychologist on tap. So any franchisee with any kind of issue can phone up because there's a phone line. And these people are really good. It doesn't cost them anything. It's all paid for by the company. So you're always saying, what else can we do? What more can we do? Why are people leaving? What could have stopped them?
Definitely not the cash. It's definitely not well, it could be cash if they're offered 300K year job at I don't know, a consulting firm or something, but it's definitely not freedom. Freedom is there. Or maybe, well, how's their work life? Do they work more than 12 hours a day, or do they like it that way?
No, actually, I have a practice of ringing veterans 10, 20 years in particular, or 30 years in one case recently. And I ask them what they're doing. And some of them are actually making a lot of money. Some of them are actually making a lot more money than they were. But the most common response is I'm getting the same money that I was, but I'm working much less hours. I've seen my kids grow up. That's probably the single, especially for men working. So we actually, a lot of what we sell is lifestyle, flexibility. Like our fastest growing divisions are actually largely female: cleaning, dog wash, laundry. And that's because women have real problems with childcare these days. So you have a business that you can run during school hours, after hours, whatever. You can take your kids to school, you can pick them up, you can stay home with a sick kid, no problems at all. That's a huge, huge market. We love female-oriented businesses.
Wow. And yeah, the impact that you're making in their lives is quite wonderful. Well, first, do you want to leave this earth, or do you want to live forever? It's a pretty deep question, but you'll see where I'm getting with that.
Oh, I have no question. If it's possible, I'll live forever. I watched well, first of all, look after myself extremely well. I probably got another 20 years or so. Mid-90s is about what Google would suggest I'm going to live. But I watched the scientific literature very closely. Any suggestion of any way to turn back the clock of aging, I will be first in line and be able to afford it too, of course.
Right. I mean, you can afford it, that's for sure. Crack the wealth code. But yeah, if you would have to leave this planet Earth, let's say, yeah, in your 90s or something like that, do you feel that you've accomplished everything you've set? Do you feel that your legacy is there? What is left for you?
Oh, I've hardly started, honestly. I'm funding a research institute. That's where most of my money goes, actually. I live fairly simply by most people's standards. Um, like I grow a lot of my own food, for example. So I do live, but I'm currently spending about $4 million a year on a research foundation, which is looking at a character and so forth. Now that's a long way from being realized. I think we can do an enormous amount. So that's in a sense, my life's work's hardly begun. I've got a lot to achieve in the next 20 years. Um, Also, my business, my franchisees, my extended family. I mean, I can do so much better. I hate people failing. Mind you, a lot of people leave actually don't go out of business, or they don't go into something else. They actually go independent. We don't make it too difficult if they want to. If they don't see the value of the ongoing fees, they just go and run their own business, and that does happen. But I've got a lot to achieve, Charles. I've barely got going.
I believe you. I'm sold, 300% sold. And by the way, you didn't sell me anything. I just believe in you and your track record, and you're such an amazing man. You're an inspiration for real. What would Jim's Health look like in terms of a franchise?
What help do we offer to somebody to get going?
No, Jim's Health. If you would want to start that as a franchise, Jim's Health. Let's say I don't know what that would look like. What would it look to you? How could we optimize the health system?
Well, we're actually looking at launching Jim's life coaching. We've got somebody who's working on a manual on that right now, hopefully launch in the next couple of months. So I think it's a great franchise. I really believe in it. Look, exercise. I'm a great believer in health and happiness, not just health alone, health and happiness together. Exercise, crucially important. Half an hour at least of vigorous exercise every day. And apart from that, move as much as possible. Even just measuring myself, I walk everywhere possible. I live next to the office. I walk across all the time, walk back and forth. I never take an escalator if I can go upstairs. I just always moving, walking. You've got to look after your diet. That means lots of vegetables, fruit, and so forth, minimum of processed food. I cook a lot of my own food, mostly from food from the farm. So keep ultra healthy with diet. And other things too, like spending time outside in contact with nature. That's a huge boost to health and happiness. You've got to have good social relations. I'm very involved in my church. I have a leadership role in my church, for example, and I have friends. I mean, silly things like play games or go and laser tag, shooting each other, all kinds of things. I'm close to. I've got 10 children, and I'm close to most of those. So I've got a very active life, and that's really what it's about. If you look at happiness, it's very simple. Health, exercise, diet, not smoking or drinking. That does help it too, and certainly no mind-changing drugs, and good social life. Having a sense of purpose makes a lot of difference too. Got to have a reason for getting up in the morning, not just, hey, I'm going to have a more expensive car. I'm very strongly against. There's a lot of science about spending money and how it makes you happy, and people have very wrong ideas. They think if I have a bigger house or a better car or flashier clothes, I'll be happy. But you're only comparing yourself with other people, and there's always somebody richer than you. So that's Theodore Roosevelt said it very well. Social comparison is the thief of joy. So buying stuff, buying things is not a great way to use your money. Experience is a lot better. That's going out with friends and so forth. Spending time with people. The best actual thing you can do with money, and this is what scientists tell us, is to give it away to a cause that you're involved in, like my research project. That's the science of happiness. It's not what people think. Not just one more money so I can buy more stuff, but using your time and your money well. And I don't think, one of the things I strongly believe in, no other success can compensate for failure in the home. Now, I'm a successful business. I drive my son to school and pick him up pretty well every day, and we talk in the car about all kinds of things like that. You cannot put a value on that. And I don't think the most wealthy person in the world who's a lousy parent, got lousy kids, is a failure, in my view.
So many notes taken there, and yeah, agree with pretty much everything. So thanks for the wisdom dropped today. Where can we find out more about you, Jim?
All right, good to talk to you.
Online, I guess people can search you as Jim Penman, and you'll be the first to pop. Thank you so much, Jim.